are now rocking with the best.
Let's all welcome Mr. John the Censored Citizen Niems.
God damn, what am I paying you for, man? Yeah. John Niems here. Now let's get to it. This comes from Richard in Iowa. Fraud, liars, cons, stings, agents, and hormones. There are no good guys, just act whores, playing good guys. They're all bad guys, the act whores, in the puppet show. You might have your favorite act whores. Vote for them, like their lip gloss and eyelashes. But in a Masonic, satanic monopoly of secret transgen, transsex, synthetics, U-butts, all mission control comes from the Empire top Luciferian mother effers. The theater you are watching is a psyop of scripted drama, plotline planned and practiced. If you feel something at all as a viewer, that feeling was designed, crafted, directed, and produced. When I tell you exactly the true analysis, you might think I'm raining on your parade. But your parade is a charade. Okay, we're here. Again, we got Mike Willams back. And we're starting with my song called Same Old, which is what we all are going through once again.
I'm so tired of the powers that be using their fear-based lies. It's their playbook for centuries. Create chaos, then divide. Ooh, yeah. Show me something I believe. Ooh, yeah. It's time for something new. Ooh, yeah. It's the same fear frequency. Ooh, yeah. Tell us something true. I come home after a hard day's work and put on my TV. It's the same old fake news that I see. Ooh, yeah. Show me something I believe. Ooh, yeah. It's time for something new. Ooh, yeah. It's the same fear frequency. Ooh, yeah. Tell us something true. It's time for a change in the world that we live. Time for the people to get wise. It's time to not be taken anymore by all their blatant lies. Ooh, yeah. Show me something I believe. Ooh, yeah. It's time for something new. Ooh, yeah. It's the same fear frequency. Ooh, yeah. Tell us something true. Ooh,
time to end the same old, I'd say. I would say, and it's great to have Mike Willams back. He came back faster than we thought, but Ed Hendry had to cancel last minute, so it's great to see you back on here, Mike. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, John. It's good to be a pinch hitter.
I'll try to throw no curveballs at you. How's that? Anyway, my song, Same Old, I wrote that originally in 2001, and then I updated it, and there's a lot. That's one thing. It's you probably do that too. You have a song and you say, I want to make it more pertinent for now. But I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty tired of the same old. The left, right, every 4 years, this is the most important election of our lives. I mean, how many things do we know are fake right now, you know?
Yeah, just about everything, and if not everything. And you're right, it's the same script. They play it over and over and over again. And the reason why they can play it over and over again is because people don't learn. They fall into the same trap every time.
And they keep using the same methods to trick the people all the time. And you would think they would all be awake by now, especially with the COVID-19. To me, this was the easiest hoax to see from day one. If you know anything about vaccinations, if you know anything about viruses, if you know anything about our immune system, that's the thing about the COVID-19. None of us have an immune system anymore. Did you know that? None of us have we can't fight disease at all. We have to use their toxic medicines and their poison vaccines. That's all they want us to use all the time.
Yeah, people seem to have very short memories. They don't remember going back 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, depending upon how old you are, that when you caught the flu or you caught the cold, you just bit the bullet, right?
Right.
And typically you were back on your feet within a week and your immune system got you through it. And, of course, sometimes you maybe had to get some medicine or whatever, but there wasn't this fear. And today they've got people in a state of mind where, God forbid, you should get sick or you should not feel well. And they've got people in a panic. And when this first came out, this whole coronavirus thing, CV thing, back, I guess, in February, March, I called it a hoax right then and there.
Well,
and I really thought
you
too, John, that people would see it. And what it ended up being actually is an IQ test. Really, it really came down to that, because a very, very small sliver of the population is really awake to this thing. 99.9% of the population is pretty much buying this thing, lock, stock, and barrel. And people say, well, Mike, there are people that are not buying into it. I get that. I understand that. They listen to your show. They listen to my show. But when you lay it up against the total population, we're in a very, very small minority.
And I find that out when I go out in the real world. Like on Facebook, I have so many smart friends, and I start thinking everybody's waking up. And then I go out in the real world, and I have not worn a mask yet, and I'm sure you haven't. And I've had a few Karens say, "Where's your mask?" kind of thing. And it's like I try to educate them on it. And I've got a lot of stuff to read to them. A lot of times I'll have people, while I'm tuning their pianos, I give them something to copy. If they have a copy machine, I try to share with you. Share this with your friends, and don't wear a mask ever. You don't need to.
No.
So.
No. The one time I did have to wear a mask, so I just want to make sure, full disclosure here, is that when my stepfather was in hospice back in April, and of course I didn't want to wear a mask, and I fought it tooth and nail. But the bottom line was, I was not going to be able to see him. They were not going to let me in to see him, and he was dying, and he was in hospice for a week. So what ended up happening was I put this dopey mask on to get into hospice, and as soon as I got to his room, it came off. But I did a video where I had said that there's a difference between involuntary and voluntary mask wearing. So there are people, folks, good folks, that really don't have a lot of options because if they don't wear a mask, they may not be able to work. They're not going to get a paycheck, right? So they're boxed in.
Right. There's a lot of people like that. Most people.
A lot of people like that, right? But the people I have a problem with are the people that involuntarily wear the mask. And they voluntarily wear the mask. And what I mean by that is these are the people that are outside walking their dog with a mask. They're driving in their car with a mask. They're out at the park in nature wearing a mask.
Yeah, you see them.
I mean, these people are gone.
Everywhere. Yeah, you see them everywhere. And when someone like that will say, "Well, I don't want to upset anybody," a lot of times they'll say, "Well, I know it's not good to wear, but I don't want to upset anybody," and I tell them, "Upset them, take it off, feel free."
Yeah.
And I've had people finally follow me now that go in without it, and they said they feel liberated by not wearing it. And many stores I go into in the last few weeks, they won't even bring up anything to me on it. But I have my get out of mask jail card free. I use the medical exemption thing, and I use that periodically. I've only had a few places where they wouldn't let me in. One was Apple. I had my friend here, Sasha, go in and get me another computer while I screamed at the crowd around the Apple store. This is a hoax. What's wrong with you people? I'm getting better at it too. I don't do it with too many cuss words anymore. I've tried to tone it down because I don't want them arresting me like I'm the nut job. That's the other thing. They make us look like the nut jobs. You know the truth about something and you're a nut job, And that happened with 9/11. And that's the other thing about this with 9/11. People still believe the official story on that, hook, line, and sinker. Right. And if you haven't researched any of it, how can you believe any of it? And that's the other thing about the government. You ask people, on the average Joe, do you trust the government? Most people will say, no, I don't trust the government. But you trust them on COVID-19?
Yeah, they cherry pick. They cherry pick what it is they want to believe. Yeah, it's very interesting. Going back to the point you made, John, about people saying that they don't want to offend anybody, so they'll put the mask on because they don't want them to feel uncomfortable. My response to them is, you are enabling ignorance.
Exactly.
Okay? So take the mask off and be a human being. Breathe. And if more people did this and they just got back into the human race, this whole thing would unravel. But
I've been saying
it is what it is. People are just they got vapor lock on this thing.
And the great Peggy Hall has posted a lot of things about how the actual fact is this: the businesses making you wear a mask, they're breaking the law. And here's a few things from one of her websites that I pulled off. If you refuse entry to your establishment, which is open to the public, you are also restricting the free movements of an individual and engaging in false imprisonment. If you are in violation of several laws if you prohibit the entry of someone if they are not wearing a mask. This is what so many people can't fathom. A governor saying you have to wear a mask is not a law.
No.
A governor saying you have to stick your thumb up your you-know-what, and people would do it, apparently. This is how ridiculous this is. It is unlawful to enforce 6 feet separation, as it restricts the movement of individuals and may be construed as false imprisonment. And she's been really good at this, and I carry this with me. I try to explain to people very nicely that this law is on my side. The freedoms are on my side. And apparently, and many people that have had that happen, and it's happened to me in about 4 establishments, even with my get out of mask jail card. I still have some. Well, we don't allow that anyway. You can't come in. They're breaking the law by telling me I can't come in.
Yeah, I had a situation in Sherwin-Williams where they wouldn't let me in the store, and I stood at the door and I said in a very loud voice that it's a hoax. Everybody needs to wake up, take your masks off, and it was very surreal, John, because as I was saying it, I'm looking there was probably 8 to 10 people in the store, and every one of them had this deer in the headlights look.
Exactly.
They had blanks in their eyes, and it's just unbelievable. It really is. I had another situation where I had a doctor's appointment. I was a dermatologist, and they said, well, I told them, I said, I don't wear a mask, and I have a legitimate medical issue. And I explained to them that I can't wear a mask. And they said, well, can you wear a shield? I said, no, I can't wear anything. Can't wear anything that obstructs my airways, my breathing, okay? And I said to the dermatologist's office, I said, look, do you realize you're discriminating against me?
Exactly.
It's discrimination.
Exactly. But also, your health is more important. And if something happened to you wearing a mask, they would be liable, correct? If you got sick?
I would think so. I would think so. And whether I had a legitimate medical issue or not, I wouldn't wear a mask. And like I said, the only time I've worn one was when I had to go see my dying stepfather back in April. Otherwise, they were not going to let me into hospice. And the whole thing is just...
And think about this. Back in April, here it is November, and people are still going along. There's a great... I saw a picture of people on an airplane. They had the mask on, and they had the invisible shield come down. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you're on an airplane, and let's say the cabin pressure goes, and you need the oxygen mask to come down. And I wrote below, John Niems survived the airplane crash because he didn't have a mask on. He got the oxygen to his mouth faster than anyone else, and the rest of them died. And think about it. Aren't all airlines liable with that one thing right there? They should not make people wear a mask because of oxygen, period, on the plane.
Right.
I thought that was a good joke, though, wasn't it?
It was a very good joke. Look, people are mechanized robots, and I don't like saying things like that. I really don't, John. I like to give folks the benefit of the doubt, but, like you said, we're into month 9 now?
Yeah,
right?
oh, yeah.
If you go back to February, let's just say it started in March, so 8 months now of mask wearing. When does it dawn on people? At what point do you say to yourself, you know what? I've been wearing this thing for 8 months now. When do you take it off? And I'm afraid that the answer is by a lot of people is, well, I'll take it off when I'm allowed to take it off. When the government tells me or the governor tells me I can take it off, that's when I'm going to take it off. They don't pay attention to anything. They don't pay attention to the numbers coming out of the CDC, coming out of the WHO, that show.
It's not a pandemic. It shows
it's not a pandemic.
And here's the thing I like to read to people all the time. 2 OSHA mask experts spoke, and the fact that the masks that people are wearing were never designed to be worn for long periods, and doing so is harmful. These are experts on masks. Everybody that you see who is an expert on masks, they say the same thing over and over. Wearing a mask is not necessary, and it also can be harmful to your health. And I've met so many people that have asthma, and they say, well, I have to wear it because I have asthma. And I'm wait, are you thinking? Are you thinking at all? I mean, don't you need air? I mean...
That's just stupid.
Yeah, well, anyway, now the next song we're going to play is one of yours. Which one are we pulling up there, Sasha?
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep? Which one do you want to have played first? Black Sheep?
Black Sheep is fine. That's off my Hollow Moon album.
Okay.
Let him talk about it a little bit.
You want to talk about that before we play it, or just play it?
Black Sheep, I wrote this song. It's for all of the folks out there that are truth seekers, genuine truth seekers.
Okay.
And we are the Black Sheep.
That would
It's
include
as
me
simple as
then.
I can lead you to the promised land. All you need to do is take me by the hand. It's a place you can be where you truly exist amongst the many lives within your midst. Come with me and follow me on the Black Sheep. You don't have to live a life of pain. Leave it for the wicked. if you wanna be free, come with me and follow me on the black sheep. You can be a shepherd, you can be a rock, you can play a record and sing to your flock. I can lead you to the promised land. All you need to do is take me by the hand. There are no storm clouds hanging in my sky, just a brilliant sun with wings to fly. Come with me and follow me on the black sheep. Come with me and follow me on the black sheep.
Well, Mike, I'm with you. I'm your fellow black sheep. Then, where do you want to go?
Well, maybe we should move to the election, which is a total circus.
Oh yeah, the most important election of our lifetime, which is what they said 4 years before that, 8 years before that, 16 years before that. I'm 68, and I've heard it all my life. So this is the most important election of all time.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. I'll be 62, and that's all I've heard.
And Joe Biden's one of the most unlikable guys of all time, but he got more votes than anybody. So we're supposed to believe that too. So anyway, where do you want to start with the election?
Well, I think I will say that there is massive fraud that has taken place with the election, and
Like all of them.
like all of them. And that's the thing, John. That's a very important point, right? Is that it happens with all of them. And I remember back in the 2016 election, I was watching the election results when Trump was running against Clinton, and I was on the phone with my brother. And as we're watching it, Trump wasn't winning very many states. And then as we were talking, we were watching the same channel at the time. All of a sudden, click, the numbers just boom. They just switched, like a switch was thrown, right? And it put Trump on top. And I said to my brother, I said, did you just see that? And he goes, yeah, I did. So the thing is, this happens all the time. So I did a commentary video where I said, anytime somebody has something to gain or something to lose that they don't want to lose, there's going to be cheating. There's going to be deception. There's going to be lies. This has been going on since, the dawn of day. So everybody running around now, just clamoring about this election and the fraud and everything else. Yeah, there was election fraud. There's no question in my mind. But there was also election fraud in 2016. And then, 4 years before that. Yeah, and let's not forget 2000, right, between Bush and Gore with the hanging Chads.
The score was 5-4 for Bush there. That was the final score. Well, how about in 2012? Everywhere Ron Paul was going, he had massive crowds like unbelievable. And everywhere Romney went, there was crickets.
Right.
Crickets. And who won? The guy with the crickets. I mean,
right.
You can bring up any election. I've been voting independent since the 80s. I voted for John Anderson. I don't know if you remember that guy in the 80s.
I remember John Anderson, yep.
Ross Perot. And now Ross Perot is a great guy to bring up because they actually let an independent in the debates with Bush and Clinton, two of the big crime families of our time. And by the way, speaking of Bush, I got a great book everyone should buy, Family of Secrets. You read this book and you wonder why the Bushes are not in jail. They're above the law just like the Clintons are above the law all the time. And this is a great book by Russ Baker. This is one of the few books I actually read in 1 week. I'm a slow reader, but I couldn't put it down. But back to in the 90s, 92, going back to Ross Perot, he won the debate with Clinton and Bush. And after that, they wouldn't let any independent back in ever. All the independents were taken out. But just imagine Ralph Nader, if he was allowed to debate with Bush and Gore in 2000.
Yeah,
you'd have a smart guy in there against these nitwits.
Right. And I voted for Ross Perot as well. And Perot came out later and said that his family was being threatened.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
And right, and the media played it up as if he was some kind of kook. Well, who's threatening you, and what are you talking about? The guy's lost his marbles, But I have no question. There's no question in my mind that Ross Perot was harassed.
And how about Dennis Kucinich? I'm sure he was harassed about the health care of the Obama administration. They took him up on an airplane ride, and I'm sure they hung him out the window, and then they said, "Are you going to vote for Obamacare?" They land, and Dennis Kucinich, and I think didn't a brother of his, or didn't he lose some family members too during that time, as I recall? It's always people say, you're a nut job to think that they would actually. No, they do that all the time, man.
Yeah, it's organized crime.
Yeah, that's what we're up against.
Yeah, it's organized crime, and people have to get their heads wrapped around this. People want to think that there's a good side, there's a bad side, there's left, there's right, there's liberals, there's conservatives, there's Democrats, there's Republicans. It's just a big puppet show.
Well, look at who Trump has going to look at the votes is Mayor 9/11 Rudy Giuliani. Now, if anyone doesn't think Rudy Giuliani was in on 9/11, you got to be out of your mind. He's as crooked as the day is long. Now, everybody who's in the Trump camp thinks, oh, wait, we got Rudy going to go after the Bidens now and find a vote election fraud. And I have a very hard time believing that Rudy Giuliani is going to be anything better than anybody as far as he's looking at it. I mean, this is the guy they trust now. The guy who lied about everything about 9/11, and he's been lying a lot about other stuff too, which we know. But now Rudy Giuliani's a good guy that we're supposed to trust. That's another thing that happens, if you noticed. You have somebody that's painted really bad by the press, and then all of a sudden he's a good guy. And after Trump got in, he was praising Hillary. Remember his campaign speeches where he's going to get Hillary in jail. Is Hillary in jail? Have you last time?
Right.
Are the Clinton crime family ever going to jail, or the Bush crime family ever going to jail? They're all above the law, every one of them.
Well, I tell people that all the time, especially when Trump was talking about he was going to drain the swamp. It was funny today. I was reading where he was in a pissing contest on Twitter with John Bolton, because Bolton evidently is telling him, look, just fold your cards, and Biden won. And of course, Trump is pushing back, and he said something to the effect that Bolton was a dope or something, right? Just such an intelligent level of conversation, right? That you would expect from the level of the presidency and people, a guy like Bolton who worked in Trump's administration. So the point I'm trying to make here is that Bolton did work in the Trump administration. So how is it that he wound up there? How is it that Bolton wound up working in the Trump administration? That's the problem with all of this, is that they're bringing in all these people, even though they're coming in and saying, "Oh, I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician," which is a bunch of nonsense, right? But they're bringing in all these people who work for the Council on Foreign Relations. They work for the Trilateral Commission. We're on with the Trilateral Commission. They're with the Bilderberg Group. They're with the Heritage Foundation. All of these different organizations. They're all internationalist organizations. Goldman Sachs. These people, they populate these administrations, and it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or if they're Republicans. They bring in the same suits from all of these organizations, because who really runs the country is not the guy sitting in the White House. I mean, I hate to break this to people. There is a shadow government. There is a shadow government that rolls up in under the Committee of 300.
And you see a guy who works in one administration on the Democrats, and then all of a sudden he's working in the Republicans. I'm trying to think of the guy's name who was really close to the Clintons, and now he's always on Fox, and he's saying how bad they are. But when he was with them, they were good. Same thing with and like Donald Rumsfeld, he was in the Ford, and Cheney, they were in the Ford administration. Then they go into Reagan, and it's the same retreads all the time. It's the same people. And I think, since we're talking about this, I think I should play my next song, "Innocent People," which the opening line is, "You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. President." And when you get down to it, all the presidents are lowlives.
a question.
Oh, wait, who's the committee of the 300? Somebody just asked that. You have an answer to that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the Committee of 300 is made up of bloodline families, and everything that goes on in the world, as far as the strategy, the direction, emanates out of the Committee of 300. Underneath the Committee of 300, you have organizations like Tavistock, the Club of Rome, you have NATO, and just a myriad of NGOs. The whole internationalist apparatus is underneath the Committee of 300 umbrella. So as an example, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the RIIA, or Chatham House, they define all of the policy that is put in place within the United States. So policy making in the United States emanates out of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is tucked in under the Committee of 300. They want you to believe that policy is being defined here in the United States. It's not. It's coming from outside. So there is a, I'll use the term because people are going to be more familiar with it, even though I don't like using it. There is a global structure. There's an internationalist structure in place. And the Committee of 300 runs the show. If you want to learn about it in great, great detail, there was a book written back in 1995 by Dr. John Coleman called The Conspirators' Hierarchy, the Committee of 300. And Dr. Coleman, who's old now, I think he's in his mid-80s, laid the whole thing out. And once you read that book, you will never look at the world and you will never look at politics the same way again, ever, because you will have a very, very clear understanding of how this thing really works. And he even has diagrams and flow charts as to who reports to who, and so on. So I highly recommend, and I have been recommending to folks that they read that book.
Well, that's what I do all the time, and I guarantee you, if it's not taken down already, can I get it at Amazon or any place still? Is that?
You can get it on Amazon. I think there were 5 editions of it. The first and the third, I think you can get on Amazon. The 5th, which I've been trying to get my hands on, is selling now for some ridiculous amount of money because it's out of print.
Oh yeah, I see those at like thousands of dollars sometimes they sell.
Yeah. The previous editions, right, the early editions, you can still get those. But the follow-up editions where more information was added to the book, they're more difficult to get your hands on. I have the 3rd edition. I read the 1st, I read the 3rd, and I want to try to get my hands on the 5th. But the book is just filled with information. And like I said, once you read it, you won't look at the world the same way again.
So before I play my song, you're telling me that you actually read books and research things on your own. You're telling me that, and you have critical thinking skills. You sound like a conspiracy theorist there, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I am, John. I am
okay. We're going to play Innocent People right now, everybody. Sing along on the chorus.
You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. President. You don't have to declare war on innocent people, on innocent people. With every generation, there starts a useless war. Blue blood manipulation, they tell us what it's for. They now have Boy George, they use him to destroy. And he follows their orders as soldiers get redeployed. You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. President. You don't have to declare war on innocent people. You don't have to be lowlife Since the Great Depression, the family takes their pay, committing crimes against humanity as the media looks the other way. You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. President. You don't have to declare war on innocent people. You don't have to be lowlife your whole life, the Federal Reserve. You don't have to take resources from innocent people, from innocent people. From JFK to 9/11, when will we finally get some truth? Coup d'etat, both inside jobs. War is a racket. The masses are the pawns. Come on, everybody, sing along. You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. President. You don't have to declare war on innocent people. You don't have to be lowlife your whole life, the Federal Reserve. You don't have to take resources from innocent people. You don't have to be a lowlife your whole life, Mr. Vice President. You don't have to declare war on innocent people.
Let it, no, let it play. I want to let it play. Let it go.
On innocent people.
I wanted to hear the ending.
It's time
For the people to get smart. It's time for the people. See, that's at the end of my that. It's time for the people to get smart. And when I wrote that song, it was 2007, before the 2008 thing where the Federal Reserve said the banks were too big to fail and all that BS. And they take resources from people all the time, and they can do it. They're above the law, and it's fun. I'm just thinking today, a week from today is the anniversary of JFK's assassination, and our government still says it was Lee Harvey Oswald with a gun that
Right.
nobody would ever shoot with, and people want to trust the COVID-19 with these same people that are still lying. Everyone in the Democratic Party, everyone in the Republican Party, they know what happened on that day. They know what happened. They know 9/11's a total lie. Every one of them. You can't be. Now, if you have someone like Cynthia McKinney, who I'm friends with, and I'd like to get her on my show, by the way, who asked tough questions to Donald Rumsfeld during those hearings after 9/11, and then they made sure that she would. Rumsfeld, probably after she was asking him tough questions, said, "Didn't she get the memo? I'm not supposed to be asked anything other than the softball questions." Just like I told you the first time we were talking about Tillman and his dad. I think I was talking to you on that show, wasn't I? The same thing, the softball questions to these people. You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're doing great jobs there, General. And then, hey, tell the truth about. First they said the Taliban shot him. Then they said it was friendly fire. It was a hit by them. They have four sitting there. It was a hit by them. They didn't want the smart millionaire football player to come back and badmouth the war. This is why I don't understand how people can't see the obvious. The obvious. And that song gets me pumped up, by the way. I mean, I start getting mad, man. You start hearing it. You can't believe any of our presidents. You can't believe the Federal Reserve, any of them. And the people just go along with it because they don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah, well, look, everybody's sitting in front of their television set and they're just getting their heads pumped with hypnosis and mind control. And the thing is, they don't even realize it. And all of these presidents, folks, they have bosses, okay? Understand that. The buck does not stop in the Oval Office. That's something you've been told ever since, you could understand, right? Ever since you went to school. But it's a lie. The presidents have bosses. They are owned. They have job descriptions, and they are put in place to implement the internationalist agenda. Okay, the one world government, the new world order, whatever it is you want to call it, whatever label you want to put on it, that's what they are there to do. When we take a look at the whole COVID thing, all anybody has to do, if they had a half a brain in their head, would be to take a look at what's going on across the entire world with COVID. It's the same script played everywhere. Everywhere. How can that be? How can the same script be played in every single country across the world? Well, there's only one way that could happen. It's because it's all controlled from one place,
right.
And it's coming top down.
Yeah, no.
And these prime ministers and these presidents are being told, you better get with it, get with the program, and implement this stuff. The mask wearing, by the way, is a ritual. You are participating in a ritual. Because the other thing with these lunatics, these elites, is that everything is done via the occult, astrology, celestial alignments, and so on. And guess what? December 21st, we have the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. Okay, that's what this is all leading to.
And Agenda 21 is that's been written a long time ago, and
Yeah.
then Agenda 30, and of course, I want to just say to if anybody out there thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist, I've researched all this stuff. So if you think I'm a nut job, and people call me a nut job all the time. I say, yeah, I'm a nut job for truth. I'm a conspiracy theorist for truth. I'm off my, I want the truth. That's all I want. That's all I ever want. And when you know how many lies are coming at you 24/7, and I think that the Q movement was like COINTELPRO is what they call it, like limited hangouts. They get involved to take people off the thing and thinking that something's good going to happen. Every movement I've been in, there's limited hangouts. Lot of and that's the thing about the Q movement. Well, you were going to say something earlier about that. What were you? Anything?
Someone asked, explain that Saturn thing he just said.
Oh, explain the Saturn thing you were just talking about. Somebody just said in the chat.
Okay, I'll do it real quick because it could get very, very involved. So the elites, they operate and they run the world based upon occult knowledge. Occult just means hidden knowledge. And a big piece of that occulted knowledge is astrology. And they look to certain celestial alignments, planetary alignments, as key moments along the timeline in which they plan accordingly. So the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which means that's when they come the closest together, right?
Right.
That's a major conjunction in astrology, major. And the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is associated with major change and transformation. So that's why CV was cranked up back in March, back during the spring equinox. And they're leading up now. Again, it's a ritual, folks. That's why they have you wearing the masks. Masks are worn with rituals leading up to that conjunction. Now, what they believe. Now, look, and I always tell people say, well, I don't believe that stuff, Mike. It doesn't matter what you believe.
Yeah, exactly.
It matters what they believe.
Right.
Because they're running the show. And so they're looking to push the ball over the goal line. Okay. Now, the World Economic Forum, which is an NGO, they come out with all kinds of internationalist direction, strategy. Go to their website, type in the World Economic Forum, go to their website, and go take a look at what it is they're telling you is going to happen. Right? They're actually telegraphing this stuff to everybody. You just have to have the wherewithal to go to their sites and take a look at what it is that they're planning. Stop going to Fox News. Stop going to CNN. Stop going to MSNBC. That's all propaganda. That's part of the Ministry of Propaganda. If you really want to know what's going on and save yourself a lot of frustration and a lot of anguish sitting there wringing your hands, is Trump going to win the election? Is Biden going to win the election? Go to these websites like the World Economic Forum and go take a look at what it is they're telling us is going to happen. So anyway, going back to the conjunction, so that's what they're doing. And, a lot of people, they just push that stuff off and say, oh, I don't believe that. It can't really work that way. Isn't astrology the horoscope in your newspaper? No, it's not. So in any case, not to get too animated about it. And the reason why, John, and sometimes you get like this is because you're trying to get information out and you're talking and you're talking and you're talking and you're showing people and you're pulling information together and you're connecting dots and they still don't get it.
Yeah.
They're still sitting in front of their television sets. They're still sitting there with their pom-poms, hoping that their guy is going to win. And if their guy wins, well, life is just going to be grand. Look, what I tell people is this. Do you like where the world is today? No, most people do not. Well, the way we got here was a combination of Democrats and Republicans over the timeline over the last, especially 150 years. We'll say the Act of 1871. That's usually my stake in the ground, John.
Right. I bring that up all the time. That and a lot of people, well, that was meaningless. No, it wasn't. It wasn't meaningless.
Absolutely. It's not meaningless. That's when this whole thing really got traction. So for the last 150 years, this ship has been steered, no matter who is in office, to wind up where we are today.
As a corporation and not a country. We are a corporation. Exactly. And that's something, again, I can't believe that people, I've shown that to people and they don't want to, well, that doesn't mean anything. The Constitution's been shredded by all the administrations as far as I can tell since I was born, for crying out loud. I think it's time for another song of yours there, Mike, so you can relax a bit. Let's play, what's the next one?
Give Me Love, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, talk about your next song. Give me Love. That's a good one. Hey, that's a novel idea too, man. You got a lot of novel ideas. Researching and love. What the?
Well, Give Me Love was back on my album Leaving Dystopia, which is the album before my current album, Hollow Moon. And the song is just about just love and growing your spiritual aspects, just basically shedding yourself of the physical world anchors that we all carry around and transcending and rising up.
Okay, let's hear it.
Take me by the hand. see. It'll be alright. Take me by the hand, lead me home, help me understand that I'm not alone. Give me love.
I concur on that one there, Mike. Give me love. That's what I. And before you were talking about materialistics things. I don't want to get off the path here, but next week is Black Friday. We got to go shopping, man. Come on, now. let's.
It's all online now, John. All online, you know.
Yeah, I know, but we got to go shopping, man. That's material stuff. We got to get your kids. When I go to homes with a lot of kids, and I'm tuning the piano, and there'll be all these toys on the ground. And then I see all the people that have all this Disney stuff for their kids. In Walt Disney's signature is 666. There's a lot of times where I'm in a house where I know if I say too much, they won't let me back. But sometimes I don't want to go back. But it's amazing to me when I see what so many kids are looking at. I never had one, but if I did have a kid. Of course, I would have been maybe not too awake at the early part of my life, but I started waking up in my 30s, so I've been pretty awake for a long time. And but anyway, that had a great feel to that song. Kind of having a Beatle thing. It looked like a Ringo could play the drums on that one too. I think, huh?
Yeah, actually, it would have been Bernard Purdy.
Well, I was giving Ringo the benefit of the doubt. Wait. I said not to bring up the Beatles today. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, Black Friday's interesting. That was put in play obviously to, for people to spend money because the whole thing is about commerce, right? That's really that's the fuel that feeds the beast.
Right, exactly.
Go out, you keep spending money, you spend money on inane things, but it also really illustrated the animalistic behavior of people at times, where they just lose their humanity. And we've seen so many of these videos where they storm the stores, they break the doors down, they're fighting with each other. It's just unbelievable. I mean, when does humanity wake up?
And that's what the COVID-19 is making people lose humanity from the beginning. You got to be apart, 6 feet apart. And by the way, 6 feet apart, 6 feet under, 6 feet apart, 6 feet under. Everybody don't forget, that's how far you're buried, 6 feet under. The 6 feet apart is always the numbers like you always bring up. I always bring up numbers, 19 hijackers, but there weren't any. 19 years later, COVID-19. It's all in the numbers all the time. Right in front of 33rd parallel was where JFK was shot on. The towers started in 68, 33 years later, they bring them down. The towers one was David Rockefeller and the other was Nelson Rockefeller. I mean, you can trust the Rockefellers, can't you?
Right. And by the way, JFK was assassinated on November 22nd, which is 33.
Yeah, 11/22. Okay. And I used to have a bumper sticker, 11/22/63 equals 9/11/2001. And I had young people, when I did that, young people came out and said, what happened on 11/22/63? I had to explain the JFK's assassination. What are they teaching in school? Well, nothing that's really important, I don't think. Now,
and the other thing, folks, is you talk about the number 6, John, the other reason why there's 6 feet of social distancing is because the elites, they worship Saturn. And Saturn is the 6th planet.
Right. And Saturday, the 6th day. So it all comes into play there, yeah.
That's why I was saying before, it's all occulted, and it's very difficult for a lot of folks to kind of understand this. But the more you understand a lot of this occulted information, hidden information, that's really what it is. It's hidden. That's all occulted means. The more you'll understand what it is that they're doing and why.
Right. Yeah. Hey, it's funny is. My brain's going, what else can we talk about? It's like once you start, and the thing is...
Well, you touched on Q before. We could talk about that.
Yeah, we'll bring up Q. I think that was Cohen Protel as a limited hangout. They come in to get people excited. That's what so many of the limited hangouts are, to make people think. That's what I believe Alex Jones was a limited hangout to make you think
Yeah.
that this guy's for you. David Icke seems to be a lot better now, but I still don't entirely trust him. He was a soccer player and a weatherman before he became this all-seeing, all-knowing David Icke. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. The Son of God.
So give us some more on the Q, which stands for quarantine too. Which I told people that right away. That's kind of a tip-off too, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I always saw Q as a psychological operation. Always, always, always. And so folks who follow Q, and it's really geared around savior mentality, right? So when you think about it, it's telling folks, trust the plan. And trust the plan is the same thing as saying, don't do anything. Just sit down and somebody else is going to do something on your behalf. And actually, in all of history, I don't think that that's actually ever happened or ever transpired where somebody in government ever did something on behalf of the people. So I was very, very leery of Q right out of the chute. Now, the other thing, too, about Q is that Q has the exact same message as what David Wilcock and Ben Fulford were talking about back in 2012. If you remember, John, I don't know if you followed that work. I did follow Wilcock and Fulford back then and taking a listen to what they were saying. In fact, you can still find those videos on YouTube, but they were talking about the fall of the cabal. They were talking about mass arrests, the return of the Republic, and so on. So what I tell the Q folks is that what we have is the same band, but a different lead singer.
Okay,
that's what we have.
Where did
right?
David Wilcock come from? Who is he again?
Wilcock was big into he was doing a lot of the New Age type of stuff. I understand. Somebody told me his family comes from some money, but that's neither here nor there. But he was kind of this New Agey type of guy, and he was talking about he wrote a book about how everything was going to be great once we get to free energy and all that stuff and so on. And but going back to 2012, I mean, he got heavily involved in this, and it got a lot of play. It got a lot of play on YouTube and other types of platforms. Ben Fulford was talking about how secret societies out of the Orient were going to change things around. That they tired of the old system, the system of oppression and all this, So this is all stuff that just fits in with what Q is telling us. And the funny thing with Q is that, it came out around 2016, around there, right? That's really when it started to emerge. It came out of some of the forums. I think it was Reddit or what's the other one? I forgot the other one. But in any case, so it was talking about a lot of stuff that that was resonating with people because people knew that something was wrong, and that's how psychological operations work, right? It plugs into emotions and feelings that people have to play it and to pull you in, right? So back then, it was saying during Trump's first 4 years. Remember, he kept saying he was going to drain the swamp, right?
Yeah.
And what's really amazing to me is that 4 years has gone by, and the first 2 years of Trump's administration was spent with that bogus Russian Gate election nonsense, right?
Yeah.
That was completely fabricated, and he, of course, he knew. And then, this last 9 months or so, or we should say 2020, has been commandeered by the CV narrative. So, we could say that 75% of Trump's term has been spent, I don't know, kind of spinning his wheels. And so when we talk about draining the swamp, people will say, well, Mike, the reason why he didn't make progress in the 4 years like he wanted to, or he said he was going to do, was because the media was in his way. Well, I said, well, isn't the media the very definition of the swamp?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So if you're going to say you're going to drain the swamp, but you're going to let the swamp, the media, counteract you or neutralize you or marginalize your message, then, you didn't get the job done. And so what people do is they then, basically forget about the first 4 years, and then they just leapfrog to the second term. And the thing is, John, presidents in their second terms are lame duck, right?
That's they're always called that.
Lame ducks. So usually the second term is less effective than the first term for presidents who serve 2 terms. So I don't know.
Well, let's not forget too the television show The Apprentice, which was obviously for a reason to show people that he was going to be the president. And when he did that show, by the way, he was looking at a mirror, and a mirror is all satanic stuff. And all the people that were on his show, they're very suspect, every one of them. I'm going to play my song. What?
It was a question.
Oh, what's your thoughts on UFOs? There's a question from the gallery.
I believe whatever people are seeing, for the most part, with UFOs, is technology that the government has. It's secret black ops technology, black technology.
Well, we know they're way ahead of us in technology all the time. We know that. I mean,
oh yeah,
30, 40 years or more. I mean, so anyway.
Well, look at it this way, John. I mean, in 100 years, the car hasn't changed. The fundamental way that cars operate, the combustion engine, hasn't changed, right? But take a look at the technology that they have available to them for warfare.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? There's a gigantic disconnect. So what people want to believe that, again, you're watching TV, you're watching the History Channel, you're watching the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever, and you're thinking, oh, look at that. We have this now, or we have that, or this is coming. Look, they have technology that would just make your head spin.
Yeah,
that's my opinion on it.
I call it the His Story channel.
That's right.
It's
His
not
story.
real. Yeah, I'm gonna play another song of mine right now. It's called "No One's Listening." Now, this song I wrote in 2003, so it's a little. You'll see that I could make it a lot different today, but I actually played this song for Smokey Robinson at a party that I was playing for a Christmas party, and Smokey's words about this song was it was too truthful. That's what he said, exactly those words after I finished it. Now, if he thought this song you're going to hear is too truthful, what would he say about my songs today, right? So here's No One's Listening, folks, and I hope you listen.
All around the world today are people everywhere talking at each other, but no one's listening. The Catholics and the Protestants and grand old Ireland, and over in the Middle East, there's no one listening. So why can't we get along? I cry, 'cause no one's listening, and I had to sing this song and try to make a difference. So why can't we get along? I cry, 'cause no one's listening, and I had to sing this song and try to make a difference, 'cause no one is listening. In so many homes today, people in despair, shouting at each other, but no one's listening. Hearts are missing. I bet the Lord is wishing for more love, for more love. I'll bet the Lord is wishing for more love, for more love. I'll bet the Lord is wishing for more. So why can't we get along? I cry 'cause no one's listening, and I had to sing this song and try to make a difference, 'cause no one is listening.
Now, my question to Smokey is, that's too truthful? Is it? And he's got a high voice, too. I thought he'd like to sing it, man. And by the way, I hope he does steal it someday. I hope I hear him singing it, because I got a picture of him sitting next to me with looking at my chords as I'm playing it.
Yeah.
So that would be Exhibit A in the courtroom, you know. Hey, Your Honor, there's Smokey looking at my playing the piano, and I think you heard it. You know, like the Bee Gees, you know, their lawsuit. You heard about that with How Deep Is Your Love, right?
Yeah.
I knew the guy, Ron Selly. I knew that guy. I sang in his group. He had a Christian group in the 70s. He was out raking his leaves, and he heard How Deep Is Your Love coming through the window, and he says, by God, that's my song. But they couldn't prove access. It had 8 measures that were identical. It was the same. They didn't change the key. It was an E flat. The Bee Gees never changed the key. They kept it in E flat, which I call it Earth flat. That's the way I call that key now. And the judge, the jury found him guilty, and they had awarded him $25 million. Only the next day they overturned it because they couldn't prove the Bee Gees had his cassette tape. But I think now that we know more about the business, I think they overturned it because you can't sue somebody that's already in. You can't do that. Now, remember, George Harrison lost a lawsuit with He's So Fine, but those are 2 on the top. Brian Wilson lost the lawsuit with Chuck Berry on Surfing USA. But those are different. Those are famous people, and they can just, you know. But if it's an unknown suing the famous, have you ever heard of any unknown actually winning a lawsuit on a song?
No.
I don't think that would ever happen.
No.
The Beatles stole some tunes.
Well, the Beatles stole some tunes from Tavistock. Oh yeah. Come Together. Didn't John Lennon have to pay Chuck Berry on that one? He used some of his
Chuck
lyrics.
Berry's publisher. Yeah.
But
Yep.
anyway, I got off on a tangent there. But I thought, like I said, if Smokey does steal, Smokey, if you're watching today, steal it. Go ahead. I got all the proof I need.
Ka-ching.
Here's a question. What's your thoughts on the Catholic Church? Do you want to go there, or what?
I mean, I can go there. I mean, the Catholic Church is, it's another structure that's in place that is not looking out on behalf of humanity. It's just all of these institutions that we have, whether they be government, whether they be religious, we have to be very, very leery of them. I mean, I see the Pope coming out. The Pope is supporting New World Order agenda
right
items, right? He's talking about CV, and it's just what you have to do is you have to understand that everything out there has been put together to deceive us, right? So the apparatus that is in place, religion, governments, United Nations, the World Bank, the WHO, the WTO, on and on and on and on. Look, all of these organizations are here as part of the control mechanism to keep us from thriving. They want us. Look, they want to keep us down. They want us to basically wallow around in the mud, barely keep our noses above the waterline, because when you're in fear mode, you're not critically thinking. You're trying to survive versus thrive. And all of these organizations do this. I used to be a Roman Catholic, by the way. I was born and raised as a Catholic, so I'm not coming at this from the perspective of not being there. I used to call it the religion of fear. I remember as a kid being fearful of the church. I was, and then later on in my life, I spent 3 years in a non-denominational evangelical church. So I understand that aspect of it as well, So I don't subscribe to any of that today, and I haven't for a very long time. So I hope I answered the question,
Well, and a lot of people wondered if we're at the end times with the mark of the beast. I mean, there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of people, quoting the Bible, and there's a lot. The Bible to me is a predictive programming. I mean, it's showing us what's coming. I mean, there's predictive programming on so many TV shows with 9/11, Trump's presidency. That you've heard about the Baron Trump 100 years ago. Yeah. See, that's what's great about talking to you, Mike. I don't have to explain it to you. I can just tell you what it is. We both have researched probably most about the same stuff. Yeah. But the end times, I have to say this before I found the geocentric flat plane. I won't say the other word, but that's a no-no. But I used to be an atheist until I realized we're not spinning through space at unbelievable speeds. Oh, and that's another thing. You could talk some of what you talked in the South Carolina great lecture you gave. But did you have it up now where you can see the pictures? Because the video I saw of you couldn't see what you were showing.
Yeah, I have to put the slideshow together. So unfortunately, the way they had the cameras positioned in Greenville, you couldn't see the slides. You could see me.
Right.
But I was talking to slides. So I promised my subscribers that I will put that presentation up. It's going to take some time. I'm just backed up with shows and other stuff I've got to do. So probably within the next couple of weeks, maybe the next 30 days or so, I'll have that up. Yeah,
well, I'd like to see it again. I really enjoyed it. And again, when I started researching, that's why I wrote a lot of my songs, Space Farce and Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and a lot of other things that I write about. I like to say that I write songs that nobody else would dare touch most of the time. And I've paid the price because I've been censored pretty bad. And if anyone thinks I'm totally off the target there, why would they censor me if I was off the target? I get all 12 of my CDs have been censored. And
yeah.
And pretty much wouldn't you think that would make people think that, well, maybe we ought to research what he's talking about. Maybe that would be a good idea.
But they don't go that way, John. It's the same people that sit there in front of their TV sets and, they'll wear the mask until somebody tells them it's okay to take it off, Yeah, somebody who is a critical thinker, somebody who has a clear thinking mind would say, well, why are they censoring this person?
Right.
But, with me, I just had another video yanked from YouTube. They're going on a little fishing expedition now. They're going back and they're clicking off videos I did 4, 5, 6 months ago. And just taking them down. And so, look, they're not taking stuff down because you're a kook. They're taking stuff down because they don't want your message to get out. Exactly. Because it contradicts their message. And they're the ones who are kooky, okay? They're the ones lying to you every single day. 24/7, 365 days a year in perpetuity. So, that's the other thing too, going back to Q for a second, it kind of made me laugh was they'll censor you and me at the drop of a hat, right?
Right.
But somehow they're not able to get a fix on an organization or a person who's, putting out encoded messages, which is going to allegedly topple the cabal. That they can't censor. Somehow they have difficulty trying to locate where that person or that group is, right? So they're allowed to continue to get their message out. So think about that, folks. If you're into the Q movement, think about that. How is Q able to continue to put its message out when people like myself and John and others can't even talk about CV? We can't talk about geocentrism. We can't talk about 9/11. We can't talk about vaccines. We can't talk about a ton of stuff, right? Otherwise, they're going to pull the rug out from under us, and they're going to take videos down. They're going to take channels down, and so on. So, you have to put your thinking cap on and just play it out and think it through, How come that is allowed to happen and continue, but we're not?
There's a 92-year-old woman in Germany. You can't question the 6 million mantra of
Right.
World War II. She's in jail. 92-year-old woman. Is they afraid of a 92-year-old woman? Are you kidding me? And I think there's 23 countries or more that have that. You can't question it. And my 6 million video was taken down after it was getting a lot of views. And I'm hoping to have Jim Rizzoli on next week. I got to give him a call, and
Okay.
that video will last probably a minute. And when I start talking,
You're going to have to find another way to do the show, because otherwise they'll pull the live stream down on you, John.
Well, that happened last year when I was in my fourth show. I was playing my song "Who Owns Us," and in midstream the sound went off. But the chorus is beautiful. Everyone should sing along. It should be the national anthem. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the national anthem. All this, it's theater too, with the football player. Before that all happened, the NFL didn't have a contract with the military. About the early days of the Super Bowl. Let's go back to the NFL. The early days of the Super Bowl. They had half a crowd out there. No one cared about it. No one who cared about the Super Bowl. Anyway, slowly though, they made the halftime show the more important part of it, and it's all satanic BS. And they didn't. The players would be in the locker room when the national anthem was playing, but slowly then the NFL made a big million deal contract with the military. You got to have the players out there when the national anthem's playing. People have no idea how much this is orchestrated. So then they got a guy with a knee, and they made it a big deal. And I've been saying a long time, this is before this happened, I said, why would I want to stand for a song that sings the bombs bursting in air that we invade so many innocent people? Why would I want to stand for that? That's what people. You're not patriotic. No, I'm more patriotic by not standing, because I'm making a message that this whole thing is all, and also Francis Scott Key, who wrote the song. The second verse was all about slavery. People don't know the history of any of this stuff, the real history,
Right.
Which they're trying to, as you and I were talking. How are you going to find this book? Family of Secrets is probably going to be pulled. You want to know about the Bushes? You better get all these books. This book, New World Order Assassins, by the late great Victor Thorne. He has a chapter in here on the shooting in Australia, which after this happened, all Australians handed in their guns in 1996. I think they wish they had them now. But on this page, the so-called shooter, another lone nut, he had a abysmally low 66 IQ. Now, when you see that automatically red flags go up everywhere. You know he didn't do the shooting, if there was one. And all of a sudden, was it a total fake event? But Australians, as my good friend in Australia tells me, they all still talk about that as they had to hand in their guns. Well, that's one thing that's keeping America. They're afraid of the people that have the guns here. And I don't have a gun, but I would never tell anybody to hand their gun in ever. I would never tell anybody, what's the difference between being raped and being forced a vaccine upon you? There's no difference. Forcing someone to put an injection of poisons in you? I mean, that's what people say, well, I'll get the vaccine so I can do stuff. This is like, come on. This is all a manufactured event, and what's coming next year, we talked with Shelley Lewis last week about the Agenda 21. She gave all the things about it that are coming true. And they only come true because people are not willing to research. They're not willing to say, hey, I don't think I want to do this. The only way this ends is taking the masks off around the world, around the globe, around the flat geocentric plane that we live on, and nobody wears a mask anymore. And it's over.
Right.
That's simple.
It's interesting, John. We have been telling people for years this was coming. For years. And along the way, right, we were called nut jobs, kooks, and all that stuff. And everything I was talking about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, is here. It's manifesting right before our very eyes.
Exactly.
And people have to wake up. And I don't know. I don't want to sound like a rain cloud or anything, but I don't know. We talked about it earlier in the show. When you take a walk outside and you see all these people wearing masks, you can see there are two different realities. There's the reality of the person who wears the mask, who lives in fear and doesn't dare step out of line, wants to fit in, doesn't want to offend anybody, doesn't want to be an individual. That's really what it comes down to. Does not want to be a free-thinking individual. And then there's the reality of people like yourself and myself and others, folks who are listening to this show. I can see now that it's just so different. I feel like I'm on the outside looking in, John. I really do. I feel like I'm watching a bad movie on any given day that I get up. You go to the supermarket, people wearing masks.
Yeah,
it's
here in Vegas. It's so bad, and
it's really bad here too in North Carolina. It's awful,
And I everywhere I go, I whistle. I always whistle because I want people to hear me. By the way, you can't whistle very well with a mask on, can you?
No, I don't think so.
And I always smile at people. And when I'm ordering a sandwich, and I always say to the person who's got the mask behind the counter, "Don't you like seeing a smile? Don't you love a smile?" And they all agree. And they all agree the mask's bad. And a lot of people in their work, they have to do it and stuff.
Right.
But,
as I said before, there's a difference between voluntary and involuntary wearing of the mask. Some people, they really have got them painted into a corner. So if you have to wear it at work, otherwise you don't get a paycheck and you can't support your family and so on, then your choices are limited until you can find something else, hopefully, where you don't have to wear it. But the people who voluntarily wear it, they make me sick. I'm telling you what, I just get disgusted when I look at them. I think to myself, Jesus, would you please use your brain? Turn the switch on and use your brain.
It's hard to do with some people. I know in a few weeks, Mike was kind enough to come on. I have Ed Hendry, who wrote this great book. You probably have this book, I'd imagine.
I have that book. Yeah.
Yeah, I handed 50 of those out. It's another one of those I hand out, and Ed will be on in 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure I got a guest next week. I think Mike should be the pinch hitter whenever I need a pinch hitter. And I didn't throw you any curves, but hey, the last song I want to play today, I'm trying to keep the shows, is it an hour and a half? Is it an hour and a half?
Yeah, you're about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it that. I don't know if anyone saw the first show that Mike and I did, though. It went 2 hours, and it felt like 30 minutes. It went so fast. It was so great. And this one, an hour and a half, didn't feel like any time at all. And we could touch on so many things and so many lies, and we could probably be here till midnight tonight, and but we won't. The last song I'm going to play, though, is a very important part of this deception, and it's called "Man's a Woman, Woman's a Man." Again, who would write this song other than me, Mike? Do you know anybody else who would tackle this agenda?
Only you.
And
you alone.
Yeah. And only if you listen in the song, I bring up Victoria's Secret, and you may understand when you listen to the song, what is Victoria's Secret? Okay, there's so many things about that are right in plain sight if you pay attention. It's not hard to see. So many of the famous people we know in politics and in Hollywood are not who they tell you who they are gender-wise. And that's another part of the big deception. And I have my friend Richard in Iowa. If he ever gets a Skype, I want him to come on. He's been researching it for like 8 years now and stuff. So anyway, we're going to close with "Man's a Woman, Woman's a Man." But guess what? Mike and I are both men, okay, everybody? I just want you to know that. Mike, thanks again for coming on. And here's the final song. I wanted to end with a rocker, and this one's a rocker. So
Thank you, John.
Something strange has been going on right beneath our noses. It's another game they've been playing on us. We all need to expose this. Men dress like women and women dress like men. It's the transgender train they roll out again and again. Look at all the photos of famous people you'll see. They're mocking the masses, and they do it quietly. The two-finger sign is for the Baphomet. Female on the top, the male below. Don't you see it yet? The man's a woman, the woman's a man. Hollywood's directed by the devil's hand. The man's a woman, the woman's a man. We've been played too long. Do you understand? Once you know Victoria's Secret, you're going to be surprised. 'Cause they've been doing this a long, long time right before our eyes. Men dress like women and women dress like men. It's the transgender train they roll out again and again. All the famous people, they are deceivers, you see. And those that tell the truth are dealt with accordingly. The two-finger sign is for the Baphomet. Female on the top, the male below. Don't you see it yet? The man's a woman, the woman's a man. Hollywood's directed by the devil's hand. man's a woman, the woman's a man. We've been played too long. Do you understand? A man's a woman.
Now that isn't right, is it?
The woman's a man.
Right in plain sight.
Hollywood's directed by the devil's hand. The man's a woman. The woman's a man.
They're all deceivers.
We've been played too long. Do you understand?
Do you understand now? Take a closer look. I want to thank everybody for coming. Also, press the like button and subscribe. And go to my website, johnniems.com. We'll put Mike's sites below. And come back next week. We got another show coming. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, John.